G'day fellas, and welcome back to the channel. Quick recap of last week. We went 6 from 8 overall, now up to and chilling at a comfortable and respectable 73%. Now this week's a little bit easier than last week. Honestly surprised we went 6 from 8 considering we chose 4 underdogs. Just letting you know now, I am never choosing the Dolphins again, at least for this season. We're starting off Thursday night, the Panthers hosting the Eels. Now, to make things worse for Para, Mitch Kenny, Brian To'o, and Scott Sorensen, and Isaac Tungo are all expected back, whilst Para will welcome back Sean Lane and Andrew Davey. Para has just been terrible lately. With injuries and now with Mitchell Moses out, there is no reason to drag this out. Panthers will rest players next week, but should go all out this week, in moderation, of course. I'm going to take the mighty Panthers here, 13+. The first game of Friday night, we have the Warriors hosting the Dragons. Tamari Martin will return this week, which is awesome. If you didn't know, he broke his leg all the way back in round 6. Zach Lomax is also back this week, whilst Jaden Sullivan could be back this week. I expect 2 things in this game. The Warriors to win, and for Watene Zelezniak to score a try. Last time these two versed, Watene Zelezniak had 4 of them, and I'm sure the Warriors will breeze through the Dragons this week. Warriors 13+. Next up, the Dolphins hosting the Cowboys. I made the mistake of backing the Dolphins last week in a questionable game in Wayne Bennett's eyes. You know, if Wayne Bennett, of all people, doesn't know a rule, it probably doesn't exist. The Hammer is back this week, but I'm not the biggest fan of Nikarima in at fullback over the Queensland rep. Lemuelu and Kenny Bromwich are set to return with no news on Jeremy Marshall-King just yet. There's no changes for the Cows here minus Valentine Holmes, who will be back in time for semis. I do think the Dolphins will give this a good crack, and I do see this being closer than you'd expect. However, you just can't take the Finns lately. Cows 1-12. The first game is Saturday, the Stormies hosting the Titans. This game's a funny one. If you remember back earlier this season, the Titans actually got the dub here. But to keep a sweet story short, whilst the Storm have not been at their best lately, I gotta take him here over a Titans team without Jaden Campbell, who I assume should be out after injuring himself last week. Speedy recovery to Jaden Campbell, but Stormies 13+. Next up, the Roosters are hosting the Tigers. Look, man, I don't know how the Roosters keep doing it, but there's a solid chance they make the 8 here. And all it took was being $74 million over the salary cap. Man, what a Cinderella story this is. Teddy is likely out after a head knock, which means we should see Joey Manu back at number 1, whilst the enforcer Jared Warrior-Hargraves should be back after hurting his fingernail last week. No idea if Brooksy's playing after his final home game last week, so we could even see Appy take number 7. After all, it's just a for fun week for the Tigers here. Regardless, I will back the Roosters this week. 13+. Next up, Canberra hosting the Broncos. What a game this should be. If you remember back to the beginning of the season, when the Broncos were like 5-0 or something, it was none other than the mighty Green Machine who beat them up at Suncorp. Jack Wyden should be back. Rapiner should return to fullback. We're only a week out from Seb Chris returning, should the Raiders want to play him in round 27. Corey Oates is expected to return for his 200th game, whilst Marty Tapau is also back after getting suspended for trying to dance like Michael Jackson on a hit-up back in round 21. I can't see any news on it here, but I'm certain that Adam Reynolds is out with a calf injury and will likely be rested until the semis. It's a great chance here for the Raiders to upset, but I just don't see it happening. Even though there's a flea dick's chance, they are still chasing the minor premiership. Broncos 1-12. First of Sunday, the Doggies and Manly at Accor Stadium. Rough news for Manly as Ruben Garrick more than likely misses this game. A lot of questions too as Burbo and Tui Polotu are in contention, but not sure just yet if they will play. The Doggies will likely just rock with the same 17 as last week. They've done incredibly well lately. They've got a good chance here, but Manly just seem to randomly have dominant performances, and I think that week is this week. I'll keep it modest though, I'll say Manly 1-12. And my game of the week to finish it up, the Knights hosting the Sharkies. Now, a lot of people probably took the Cows over the Sharkies last week, but we called the upset. The Sharks seem to struggle against top 8 teams, and whilst Newcastle has been unbelievable the last 7-odd rounds, are they one of those top 8 teams that the Sharkies will struggle with or breeze through? Well, I'll tell you what, I think that the Knights are the real deal, and at home, I just don't like the Sharkies' chances. I do think the Sharkies are more talented across the board, but you'd be crazy to not back the team who's been tearing through the entire league. The Knights are at full strength, and I'm pretty sure the Sharkies are too. A rare sight this season for both teams to be at full strength. Could go either way, but for now, Knights 1-12. And fellas, that is going to wrap up round 26. As always, let me know your predictions down in the comment section. If you made it this far in the video, you are the real MVP. Hope the rest of your day's awesome. And from me personally, I'm out. Peace.